Hello, everybody. Glad to be welcoming today our guest for this podcast, Markus Bohl from Intel Ignite Europe. Welcome, Markus.
Hi, Deron. Thank you for
Uh,
having me.
yeah, glad to have you here. So, in a few words, can you introduce your job and your daily work at Intel Ignite, and even Intel Ignite in a few words?
Yes, sure. So I run Intel's global startup program called Ignite in Europe, based out of Munich. We have 4 locations worldwide: Tel Aviv, London for the UK, Munich for Europe, as I said, and Boston for North America. And what we do, we are a non-dilutive acceleration program for early stage deep tech startups. So anything between pre-seed and including Series A, this is relevant for us, and it has to be breakthrough innovation.
Okay. So if I'm a startup, so how do I know if it's how do you select startups? I know if I'm a good fit for you or not.
Yeah, well, first of all, we select companies on the technology base and, of course, on team, on other things. But we have 8 verticals where we look for startups. So that's, of course, AI, machine learning, computer vision, and it goes all the way down via autonomous systems and robotics, hardware manufacturing, FOBs, all the way down to next-gen computing, which is quantum computing, photonics. And the selection process is quite rigid. So we do 2 cohorts per location per year. And in Europe, we look at 320 companies per cohort. And they come mostly out of referrals. So last time it was 87% came from referrals. And the vast majority of these referrals comes from VCs. As we're non-dilutive, so we don't take equity, we don't charge. We don't invest directly into the companies financially. It's like a no-brainer for many VCs to send their portfolio companies if they're in the relevant space and fit these formal criteria. And then there's a very rigid selection process, a lot of tech due diligence, as we're interested in the technology insights and in vetting these technologies if there could be something in for it. And eventually it comes down to we invite the top 18 companies to what we call the selection day, where around 150 people, very tech-savvy people from the ecosystem come together on Zoom. So 60, 70, 80 VCs, several senior technical people from Intel, but also people from IMEC, Leti, so these kind of institutions that can assess these kind of technologies and these startups in these stages. And then from these 18, we boil it down to the 10 companies that eventually we could.
What are your requirements in terms of traction, sales traction?
It doesn't have to have sales traction necessarily, depending a bit on the topic. If it's a software solution, of course, then it's different than when it's fusion reactors or quantum technologies. What we aim for is that these companies should have a professional investor in the cap table. So a VC, because we want to see this ambition and this. It is a VC case. You can build fantastic companies without VC funding and without going into that game. But for us to make it really big and really relevant, it has to be this VC case, I would say. And so this is a formal criteria. We don't accept companies that need to raise during the program because the program requires a lot of time commitment. As I said, we don't charge, we don't sell, we don't take equity. The only thing we ask for is time commitment and engagement, and you cannot be both at the same time. So that's a criteria. And of course, it has to fit into one of these 8 buckets, if you like. And we need to be able to help. So give you an example. We had a health or medtech company that did a digital twin for the lung. We took them because we could help, because it was an AI simulation, etc. problem. It was not a medical problem. If it's a medical problem, then
yes,
and of course it needs to tick this box. It brings something truly new to the world. So it has to be breakthrough innovation, as we call it, not just a mere application of something that is already out there. And don't get me wrong, you can build a fantastic company out of that. But for us, it's important that it's this innovation part.
You tackle something very important. You said you can help them. So how can you help them during the program? What do you actually do for the startups?
So as an acceleration program, we like to think of it, we make them faster. So find product market fit faster, get in front of more and better customers faster, build better teams to build a better company faster, and raise more funding at better terms faster. So that's what we do. Sometimes we call it as a co-founder as a service. So we do whatever is required to make this company successful, because I don't have an internal KPI. My KPI is my North Star, or our North Star is to make the startup successful, because we have this true belief. First, the companies need to thrive and need to be really successful, and then maybe it becomes a little bit or maybe we can help them achieve even more. But if the companies are not successful, everything's...
So this is a criteria for you. You need some kind of like a success, success before applying for Intel.
No.
No,
Like I
not
said,
really.
if it's true breakthrough innovation and this technology, there is most likely no sales traction yet or no customers yet. That is totally fine. We like to see companies that are at the brink of going to market, or if in the phase of validating their product market fit. Of course, mostly they also need to fine tune and hone their technology and harden the technology, and also understand better where it fits in this ecosystem. We want to see companies that have the promise of being successful. They don't have to show the success already.
Yeah, there's an ambition like to be a global leader, like in what you're looking for.
And this is important because first the startups need to be successful, or we need to make sure they become successful over the course of the next 3, 5, 10 years, whatever, because only then it will drive value for the ecosystem, actually also value for it.
And based on the number of startups, I think it's 150 total already. You've got
close to 180 already, and another 40 in the making currently.
Wow.
So we're adding 80 companies a year, and we are starting from 180 now.
And what do you see?
We have a scale there.
Yeah. What do you see like a general trend in terms of like the main problem for a majority of startups, and how do you maybe help them face it?
Well, I would say each company is individual. Each company has a different challenge. Each company has a different setup. Each company operates in a different market on a different time scale. But I think there are some patterns. As all of the stuff that we look at normally stems from years-long research or science, or spun out from experienced operators. This is very tech-heavy, very IP-heavy, very, very technical stuff. So one pattern is getting it to market, getting it in front of customers, getting in the feedback earlier, providing this kind of feedback loops and iterations. One pattern. Of course, most of the companies have the challenge to build and scale their organization and look forward. So I always call it the onion rings. So the founders, they need to transition through these onion rings. You start with 2 people, 10, 20, 25, 50, 100, 200, 500, and you need to be ahead of the curve. You need to be 2 onion rings ahead already, so that you can look into what do I need to learn to make it successful in that stage. And sometimes also founders may not be the right one to be in the 500 people stage, but they're perfect in the 20 to 50 people stage. And helping founders understand that and manage this transition. This is one of the patterns I would say is there, and what is it required to build the organization. So you need certain processes, you need to have certain structures in place. There's another pattern. Yes, and then of course I would say how to deliver your message. So for fundraising, for sales, for recruiting, even in the smallest startups, you sometimes have 4 employees, but 5 different messages. And it can even, so bringing it down, what is really the essence, what are you really doing, and how can you convey this message in a simple, understandable, but also attractive way. This is also, I would think, I would say this is the pattern for all.
And this is like the first point is for me like very valid and very present in the effort I do with my newsletter and my podcast, because a lot of people are telling me, when you're saying that, a lot of people are telling me, yeah, but I'm building a nuclear reactor, I'm doing fusion, I don't have any product. We're just, just the three of us founders. I cannot show up in front of a potential customer. What do you say to that? What do you say to a company
Get out
that's,
of the building.
they have
Get out of the
ambition, but
building.
they say,
That's
wait
imagination.
until we're ready.
You need to get out of the building and talk to customers, partners, suppliers, competitors. You need to understand this, and you will never understand everything, and you will never be able, but you learn. So, and people always ask me, what is the one KPI that determines successful from not so successful company? It's super hard to tell because so many different technologies, so individual. But I would say one thing is the amount of talking time. So the share of how much is the founder talking when talking to investors, to clients, to potential candidates, and how much is the other one talking? And I always say you need to limit yourself below 50%, because there has never been a VC investment where the founder has been talking 85, 90% of the time, and the VC just asking questions. So you need to bring this to eye level. And if you can't sell at that moment, you learn, you understand. What are the vectors that you need to address? What are the criteria that are important? So this is, I would say, the one KPI is share for me.
Sure. That's an interesting, and that's really interesting because I never thought about the amount of talking you do. I always say it's the hypothesis you have in your head and the one, the real one, and then there's a gap because you think about this and the market's there.
And if you talk all the time, you cannot listen and you cannot understand.
Exactly.
For you're the investor, your potential client, for your supplier.
Cool. I'm gonna ask a tricky question, but I need to ask. I was part of an accelerator before. Work at an aerospace accelerator myself, and I know it's life happens, and maybe it can go sideways with startups during the program. But let's say is there a case without naming any startups? Of course, just saying, can it go sideways with Intel Ignite during the program, and why?
Yes, of course. It's a startup. Its nature is that it goes sideways. Well, we try to make sure that some existential things don't go sideways during the program, and let's say the 9-12 months after the program. So we're going to make sure they have sufficient runway. They don't need to raise. But sometimes even a close or almost close funding round falls apart during the program. And we step in and try to help, right? And broker relationships to VCs. We help them hone the message, and then we basically part of the fundraising team a bit. But that's rare exceptions. Where it can always go sideways is if there is not enough trust and honesty and transparency from the startup. I mean, I've built 4 companies myself. I know that it's not like on your website or on your pitch deck. Don't try to bullshit and sell to us. Well, yeah, because we can only help if there's a trusted relationship and if we know what we're looking at. There's one thing, but normally this is not a big problem, or we had very, very few cases where this was the case. And I would say where it does not go in the right direction is if the founders don't make enough time and commitment.
For you.
Like I said, we don't charge, we don't sell. The only thing we want is your time and your commitment. And we put in ourselves a lot of time, not only us from the Ignite core team, but all the mentors, all the experts from Intel, but also external industry mentors, serial entrepreneurs. And it just works if you are present. So if we can work with you. And the learning is, the more the startups put in, the more they get out of it. The less they put in, the less they get out of it. And we have very rare cases where we had to bring into a point where we said, okay, this has to change, otherwise we need to kick you out. Because my promise or my core assumption is I don't want to waste anybody's time. As I know, as a founder, this is the most scarce resource you have, is time. So let's not waste it. But this is true for everybody in the whole thing. So this is how we...
One question that's always interesting for me, and it's more like a personal question, is how do you assess the founders' relationships, like the relationship between like connection, communication? It's tricky because it could be like a great company, great product, even some kind of like sales interest, letter of intent, and you might detect as you're, yourself a founder, serial entrepreneur, you say, there is a thing, a gap between ambitions between the founders or something like this. So it needs to be addressed, but they might not be talking about it.
So we spend a quite substantial amount of time on assessing or trying to assess this during our deal flow. So getting down from the 300 plus to 10. And we don't only do it ourselves. This is why we loop in experienced investors and so on. And people who also might sense something there. We did it during selection day. And we bring in also experts earlier in the stages when we do the beta estimate on the technology. So normally we're kind of good at surfacing this, but it can happen that it slips through. We have several formats during the program where we work with the founders. For example, there's one session called CEO Dilemma. This is only CEOs allowed, and this is a safe space, not recorded. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. So it's about the well-being, the mental health of the founders, but also a platform or forum to share things that you cannot share with your co-founder, with your significant other, whatever, but with your peers who have been in similar situations. And so via that, we can also surface these things and address early on to fix it. But of course, it can happen. It may happen that things fall apart. And we also have that where companies went south because of the founder relation that turns sour. That can happen. It's rare. It's very rare in our case because we do a lot of vetting. But it can happen. And of course, we also try to be very honest with founders where we say, look, same with the CTOs, there's a similar format. Let's face it, you're the founder, but you're maybe not the leadership material for this company, especially now for the next earnings. And there's nothing bad about it. You only need to be honest and true to yourself and then address it appropriately. Because again, the North Star is making the startup successful, and that should also be the North Star of every founder and every investor, of course. So there's an alignment of interest, and as we have no participation in the cap table, we're no stakes, we have no bias, we can be very direct and honest with them. Yeah, but this is the crucial part, the teams. And I would say maybe the one trait we look for in the founders is coachability. So are they able to and seeking feedback, actively seeking? I would say the best founders are really eager to get feedback and to learn and to soak it in and then digest and process for themselves and then make something out of it. We stay away from founders who say, yeah, I know it already. And the funny thing is, the more experienced the founders, the more mature they are, the more eager they are to learn more and to get feedback. The more immature and more unexperienced founders, they tend more to say, hey, I know it already, or I know what to do. And this is something where we stay away, because eventually the key trait for the founder is, or one of the key skills they need to have, they need to be able to hire better than themselves. They need to bring in world-class talents that have much more experience and much more knowledge in certain fields than they have. But how can you do that if you don't have that growth mindset, this coachability mindset?
Okay, super cool. And for the ones, for example, I don't know if you do it for the 300 applying, but let's say for the 80 startups staying, being at the selection day, do you give them some feedback? And even do you see some of them, kicked out at one selection day, coming back to the next cohort with, more material and say, we learned from what you said, what you told us,
yes, of course. And yes, of course. So we have two, let's say, principles there in place. One is we always provide feedback, and we do it in a very special way. We call it plus and plus plus. But what did you do well and why? And what could you do even better and how? So it's not a minus, it's plus, and plus plus make people grow. So we do that, and we're conscious of the time of the founders. So we want to make also the selection day or even the stages before valuable to them. So we provide feedback why we did not progress them to the next stage. The selection day, you have about 600 to 700 votes from these very savvy jury members, and we share them with all the teams, also those who are not selected, because we want to make it also a valuable experience for the 8 that don't get into the program. So we make sure they get exposure to VCs, they get exposure to the ecosystem, they get a feedback on how investors and non-investors saw them. On an anonymized basis, we even share direct feedback, so written verbal feedback, because every jury member is required to assess along certain criteria, but also written feedback. And we share that in an anonymized way with the startups, because that way they can learn and improve. And to the last point, yes, we have companies that apply 4 times. That's nothing bad about it. If you're not taken in the first time, maybe we were not ready, or you were not, it was not the right time, whatever. But we have a company that applied 4 times and made it eventually the 4th step. So persistence is a key trait for founders and startups. So we encourage that, right? Okay. And we like to learn early about companies, even if they're not ready yet, or if they're not at the right stage in this point in time. We still like to see them. We like to engage with them. Sometimes we can help and support also outside the program. And if they then eventually make it into the program, it's even better.
Yeah, because now you're starting to get into this acceptance rate close to a Harvard MBA, because 300
we're
to
below
10.
3% meanwhile, so that's getting really competitive.
Yeah, challenging. Yeah, that's really challenging. By the way, based on the geography you said, do you have eyes on the Asian markets? Asian startups? Is there Intel Ignite Tokyo in the making, or Singapore or New Delhi?
At the moment, no. For sure, there are ideas and ambitions to do that. And where in Asia is also to be discussed. Asia is kind of big. So
Yeah, true. That's why I said India, Singapore. Yeah.
But currently we focus on these 4 locations, because like a good startup, you always need to find product market fit first before you try to scale. And I think we have now a certain maturity, especially in Israel and Europe. We have just launched London, so this might take 1 or 2 iterations to bring it to the level that is required for that ecosystem, because every ecosystem is also a bit different. And in the US, I would say it's now at this point where it takes off. But it's normal. I mean, everybody has to go through that process, and the next thing would then maybe Asia or maybe another location in the US, but there's no tangible plans for that, because also the US is
And if you are an Asian company, you can apply to, let's say, Tel Aviv or UK.
You can apply wherever you want. The thing is, you need to make sure you are present. So in Europe, for example, we do 3 on-site weeks, so kickoff, midterm, and finale, where we bring in the teams for 1 week. And if you cannot make sure to be there, and if you cannot also attend Zoom sessions, depending on the time zone, then it's going to be difficult. But let's face it, we have a lot of distributed founding teams. So the CEO sits in Croatia, the development team in the UK, others in Asia, and another founder is in the Valley. That is fine. But you need to be able to make the time and be present.
Cool. You are helping deep tech founders, and I have a lot of deep tech founders in my audience and in my newsletter subscribers. It's very technical profile. I know even if you're a CEO or CTO, an ex engineer, ex doctor, PhD. How do you help them switching to, okay, it's okay to sell, it's okay to do marketing, build a brand? Do you have any tips for that? Not revealing the secrets of Intel AI, but maybe based on your own experience as well, because you did that as well.
Yeah, so of course this is a challenge. This is an issue because, like I said before, it stems from years-long research, science. Sometimes it's just 8 people in the world working on this topic, and 4 of them in this company. So that is great. And of course, they need to focus on nailing the technology and these things at the beginning. But at the same time, we have also the challenge. I always ask the founders, what are you doing? And why should I care to buy from you? And then they say something like, okay, because it's 10 times faster, 10x, whatever. And whatever they say, I also always answer, that is not enough. And as they are science and research founders, they say, yeah, but in 9 months' time, we can make it 12 times faster. I say, no, stop at 5 and start exploring how and where to sell it, to find out what is your beachhead market, what could be the ideal go-to-market, etc., etc. Well, these founders are some of the smartest people on the planet. Sometimes we have a founding team of 5 and they have 7 PhDs. So it's not that they're not smart enough to do it. Maybe sometimes they don't have this is not their DNA, or they don't feel comfortable doing that. Hey, being a good inventor doesn't mean you're a good entrepreneur, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to do it. You have to sell to investors, you have to sell to clients, you have to sell to candidates. It's part of the game, right? If you're not in this, then maybe you're not a founder, or maybe you're a founder, but not a part of the leadership team. So we try to address this. But like I said, as they are smart, they don't need a lot to understand what it takes to change it or how to do it. And sometimes it's also you need a team addition. So we help them find the right profiles, craft the profile, what do you need there. Nobody can have it all, right? So, but I'd rather prefer very technical, very savvy founder where the technology is great. If he's open and coachable and has this growth mindset and is also willing to step out of his comfort zone or her comfort zone, that's fine. Then we can work with it. If this mindset is not there, it's going to be difficult, because even adding a resource might not be enough. Right? Adding a team. You need to have this inner desire to sell and pitch your stuff and get it in.
Yeah, even pitch the story of the startup. It's like pitching your life. Like how we came to have this guy or this group of people, doing this right now, and why it's important that they do it right now, and we invest in them. So yeah, that's a great great advice for
we always have the team send us one-liners, so they should state what they're doing, right? And it is always, that's basic generic BS, like enhancing the performance for everybody. And in combination with the logo and what they do, it might make sense. But this generic claim could also be true for Viagra or whatever medication you have, or for a car or whatever. So it needs to be more specific. It needs to be more tailored to the target group, and has to work without the logo and the context. So we work a lot on that, because sometimes this is they're kicked out of the VC funnel or also sales funnels sometimes, because they're not able to communicate to the point what is their message, what are they doing, and why should I care? And if you can't do that, it's easy to be in the wrong bucket or to be ditched early on, and that would be a pity. So we work a lot on that.
Yeah, that's actually I phenomenal. I know a lot, because in my newsletter I have a special edition where I showcase 5 startups every week. It's called Biz Decoder, and I asked them to formulate just one sentence saying I help this type of company do this. So like what type of advantage thanks to my product / service / whatever. And usually you can see from this line if it's easy or understandable. Usually the sentence is super long, super generic. You can put anything you want in there, and you can see the experienced entrepreneur from this. And there's a second question. It's like, explain to me as I was a 10 years old child the company. And usually you can it's super hard to understand. It's like revolutionary, whatever. It's like, nah, 10 years old. So
I
it's
always
hard,
tell them, explain it in a way that your mother would understand, not because your mother is stupid, but she's probably not into deep tech and into these details. So you need to start, and this is, also related to where it comes from. Science and research-based founders, they used to work in this funnel logic. So you collect all the data and you narrow it down, and then eventually come to a conclusion, and that's the result of your work. But communication works the other way around. It's a pyramid. You need to start at the top. What if you only have the one sentence? What if you only have the 30 seconds in the elevator or in a meeting or whatever the CEO of the company is out for 2 minutes? You need to get the message across. And basically, we always tell them, you have 2 minutes to get the attention for the next 2 minutes. And this is also how investors look at it. Of course, they look at thousands of decks every year, and so they need to be quick in assessing and sorting. And this is a skill you need to learn and you need to work on to deliver this message. If you cannot do this, it's probably hard to raise sufficient money and to win customers and to win candidates.
Cool. So you give a lot to the startups. I see. By the way, congratulations, because I saw that Intel Ignite was one of the top accelerator in the world on many rankings, and you give a lot. And is it too early to say that Intel is getting something bad out of it, or is it already starting to get some good lessons learned?
I mean, like I said before, startup success is key, and it has been tremendous so far. They have more than 1 billion in exit value already, so they sold the company.
Wow.
More close to 1.3 billion. We're approaching fast the 3 billion mark of funding that they raised after the program. So that is also going in the right direction. And the more mature these companies become, the more relevant, of course, they become. But our goal is to surface these opportunities with Intel and bring in stuff into Intel where Intel can learn. So we see ourselves as a membrane. Like, this early stage innovation is always too early, too immature, to whatever you have. How does it get into the organization? And on the other hand, Intel is much more than the sticker on your laptop. It's much broader and deeper technology. You wouldn't believe it. And how does that flow out into the ecosystem? So we're kind of this membrane. And in that function, I think we create a lot of that. So tangible opportunities where Intel has acquired a company, they can happen. Where Intel Capital has invested in a company, also happen. Where it's integrated in Intel's tool chain, in the software offering, it can be used for internal processes to reduce costs or speed up processes, whatever. And of course, sometimes it's even integrated in the product roadmap. So there's a lot of value coming out of that. But always, it has to work in the right order. Make the startup successful, and then so you need a certain patience and a certain belief in this open innovation, if you like. But the value it creates is tremendous, and we have done, I don't know, more than 50, I think close to 100 POCs with Intel already. And some of that then turning into joint offerings, into with the startups using our technology, we using the startups technology. So yeah, the value is special.
Okay, so yeah, it's already happening. Yeah, okay.
Plus, it's of course a strategic tool, right? It informs what is going on out there, and there's the innovation and development of new innovation happens so fast and in so many facets and in so many places in the world. It has changed over the last, I don't know, couple of decades. Nobody can know it all. Nobody can own it all. Nobody can do it all. So you need this inspiration, not only inspiration, but also this inflow of things. And I think helping nurture this ecosystem and staying connected to these, like I said, smartest people in the world is highly beneficial to the company. It informs strategy, informs technology. It also, of course, infuses let's say, a different energy into the company. It's refreshing to work with these startups on see what they tackle, and with our little resources, they can achieve certain things. And that's why also Intel mentors love it to work with it. It's the different approaches, the different speed. So that's good. Beneficial for both sides.
Did it inspire some Intel employees to start a startup and then apply to Intel Ignite? Did it happen already, or is it something doesn't exist?
I don't know if somebody started a startup. Definitely some joint startups in certain capacities, as CTO, chief product officer, whatever. But the leadership roles. That happened before. I wouldn't know, at least not in Europe, if some of the mentors started their own company that applied to Ignite. We know several that started their own companies, but not necessarily relevant for Ignite.
Okay, cool. I saw that in every branch of Intel Ignite there is a CTO. Can you tell me more about the role of the CTO inside of the branch?
Yes. So every location of Ignite is set up the same way. There's always a founder, serial entrepreneur from the outside, so not an Intel background, bringing the VC network, bringing the founder DNA, all these things. Has been through the roller coaster. And then there's always a second pillar, that's the CTO. Years-long experience within Intel, technical, savvy person, knows the breadth and depth of the technology, and also helps us navigate the system, right? So who to talk to, who has the expertise, who can help. And for that, you need this technical understanding and also, let's say, being the peer for the CTOs of the startups. Me being more the peer for the CEOs for the startups. And we bring in a lot of very tech-savvy experts, not only from Intel, but of course, mainly from Intel. And to orchestrate that and to bring the right people together, the CTO role is super critical. We even have a global CTO. So on top of the CTOs of the branches, we have another CTO doing that. So yeah, Intel, I don't know, 120,000 people, probably 100,000 super technology heavy people. So this is in our DNA, if you like, right?
Yeah.
So the CTO is crucial to the program and maybe a big differentiator to many other programs, because this mentoring and this expertise in that, that's what all the startups are looking for.
No, that's why I asked the question, because I found that, the component is key. That's why that's how I understood it. But I wanted to get your own words about the way it works.
But of course, it's not just the two roles. So there's three other roles. One is the deal flow manager, so maintaining and facilitating the relations with VCs and assessing the startups deal flow is also critical, because shit in, shit out, yeah. So it's a very simple principle.
Exactly, yeah.
So that is really crucial. Also, the program and operations manager, so the person who runs the program itself, is of course also very important, because to ensure a smooth experience, making the most out of the time of people, bringing relevant people together in a, let's say, lightweight but in a very professional way. This is also critical. And we're now adding in Munich another role that's called value creation. So because the program runs 3 months, 12 weeks. In deep tech, you cannot change many things or achieve things in 3 months. You can do, of course, a lot of work on go-to-market, sales, these kind of things, but other things take longer to mature. And some of the opportunities to work with Intel or other external corporates just rises up. The companies are a bit more mature when these have been done, and to drive these opportunities, both for Intel, but also externally. So we're building a corporate circle where we bring in senior technical people, so VPs, VP engineering, CIOs, CTOs from large corporates like, I don't know, Siemens, Bosch, BMW, these kind of companies, where they can network, where they can work together. This person drives this portfolio value creation. We're just hiring this.
So that means that the program doesn't stop after the 3 months. It's going like life. Yeah. It's for life, like almost.
Exactly. We have a sticker on our door that says, "If you snooze, you lose," and that's that's probably a right way to look at it. No, of course, it has to evolve and it has to get further and it has to take it to a certain level. But now that we have found a certain, let's say, product market fit in a system that works and that delivers proven results, how can you make it even more impactful for the startups, for the investors, for Intel, but also for other ecosystems?
Yeah, and I guess, at some point there's going to be some startups from next program are going to be supplier to the companies in the earlier editions,
it happens even within the cohorts. So at the first day of the program, we always have all the founders in one room, plus just the core Ignite team. And then the founders pitch to the others what they're doing in a safe space and give feedback and so on. So there it starts already, because then people see, well, you're doing that and we could use that. And and of course, this community of fintech founders that have gone through a similar challenge and have a certain depth of technology, that is, of course, the nurturing soil for collaboration, not only with Intel or with corporates, but also amongst these startups, also cross-hub. So we have Qtra from Germany that does a collaboration with a Tel Aviv company in the quantum space. So this happens a lot, and it's, of course, also part of this new role we're hiring to bring this together.
And seeing all this, this excitement from the founders, don't you personally miss being an entrepreneur, or?
Yes and no. Like I said, I built 4 companies or 4
Yes.
tech and product companies. Yes and no, but I like to look at it. We are kind of co-founder as a service. So I basically have the entrepreneurial experience on every day working with companies, helping them overcome the most challenging topics that they face at this point in time. So I don't feel that I lack the entrepreneurial experience. But who knows? Maybe I'm off to start a new company anytime in the future. Who knows? It's not gonna happen. But no, I don't miss it. It's still the entrepreneurial excitement that we have.
And also, you're an investor as yourself, the business angel, I guess. Do you have any companies, types of company you're looking at and you're investing in, and maybe not related to Intel, like not
So
if you can talk.
what I look at is stuff that I understand, stuff that has a technology or IP differentiation, and a team that can pull it off. So for me, the most important part is the team. If I don't believe in the team and the growth of the team or the trajectory of the team, then I stay away from it. And it has to have this competitive advantage that comes from the technology. Because it's finally, this is where the value is created. This is where the opportunity lies. And so
one final question is so for all the deep tech and climate, because I also do a climate because I love the vision that they have for the climate companies listening to us right now. Do you have one resource, one media, one person you want to share that you learned from, and you had maybe a tough time learning that lessons throughout either your entrepreneur journey or even Intel Ignite journey? If you want to share.
It's not a specific resource or a specific person. I mean, there are many out there, many great resources, but I would say make sure you have enough time to operate in your sweet spot. So we see a lot of founders really overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task, by the magnitude of workload, and that feels to them degrading in performance over time. So they are not the best version of themselves because they do stuff they are not supposed to do. They get distracted. They're not focused anymore. Make sure it's more important to what you don't do than to what you do. Sometimes, so you need to learn to say no and really be very clear and very focused. And that includes having sufficient time for yourself. So we always do an exercise with the founders because they say, no, my private life is great and I have a lot of work-life balance. And it's okay. I said, show me your calendar. Show me your calendar, and we do one exercise. We take 2 weeks, and we simply color code what was business and what was private. And then we look at the colors, blue and green. Green is private. How much green do I see? Nothing. You don't have it in your calendar, and if it's not in your calendar, let's face it, it's not happening. Right? So you need to make sure, of course, you work a lot, work long hours, and you need to go the extra mile. That's totally understood. But make sure you don't run out of gas. Because if you run out of gas, the company is running out of gas, and then everything's. So you need to be, I call it the sweet spot, not only what you do, but you also need the energy and the things around you to do that. So that would be my main recommendation. Plus, limit yourself in talking time. So talk less than 50% in meetings.
Cool. Thank you very much, Marcus, for the time. I'll put the link to apply for next score. I don't know when.
Yes, of course. We're always taking applications.
You're always thinking it's an ongoing.
Yeah, so we have certain times in the year where we push more with more focus, of course, but we always take applications throughout the year, and we like to look at companies very early on, even if they're not ready yet. Normally, we can also help outside the program, doing an interaction here or there, doing some advice.
Okay. Give, and then get back later. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Marcus, for the time. It was very interesting. I put all the links relevant to your profile, LinkedIn, and Intel Ignite, of course, as well. Thank you for listening to this episode. It was great having Intel with us today. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Bye.